if you're watching this replay, this is a totally impromptu live. I wanted to see who would show up at nearly 10 o'clock on Sunday night Eastern Standard Time. I don't think a lot of people are going to show up, but we're going to find out in a second. Late night coffee. We'll see if anybody gets the notice. Oh, yeah. Is there anybody out there? Is anybody going to show? We'll soon find out. Is anybody out there? Let me know in the chat. This is a totally impromptu thing. I figured I would see who's on at this time of night. And of course, I still got my coffee. Hey, Eric, how are you? Good evening, hologram. I recognize some of you guys. Hey, Jay, how are you? So, Alberta, it's only 7:50 here. That's cool. Yeah. Let me know where you guys are from. I'm just curious to see how many people are going to show up this time of night. For me, New York time, it's now 9:49 p.m. at night. So I just want to see what's going on. 8:20 a.m. in India. Okay, so I figured that much. Yeah, thanks for the insight video, Stefan. I'm glad I could help. So this is just going to be a Q&A thing. I have nothing prepared. To be honest with you, hey, hello, Evan. How are you? I figured I'd just get on and see who's here, you know. Gatineau, Quebec. There we go. My father lives in Chelsea. I heard you guys are causing partying. You got some partiers up there in Gatineau causing troubles. Hussam al-Halak, if I pronounce that properly. I'm good. How about you? I hope you're well. Yeah. Let's see what we got here. I was a guy who commented on the Peter Schiff video who said you inspired me to code. Very cool. Yeah, I remember that. That was an old comment from like 6 years ago or something. Yeah. But comment I made, it was a recent comment. Do you think automated websites like Wix, WordPress, Shopify will affect software engineer field a lot? Nope. Will software engineering become automated in the future? A long time from now. Before software engineering is automated away via AI or any other mechanism, so many other professions will disappear. It's very complex. Like once you get into deep, I don't know, I assume that you're maybe just starting out. A big part of software engineering is figuring out project scope and putting it all together. Writing of the code is almost the last stage of the whole thing. Greetings. Sunny California. I hope the wildfires are coming under control out there. I have friends and family in Altadena, Pasadena. I almost moved there. Yeah. It's California, 6 to 8 p.m. All right. What's your thoughts on Svelte JavaScript framework? I've heard of it, never looked at it. I think it's kind of a niche technology at this point. It may have its purposes. I'm not sure how big it's going to go. Perth, Australia, Maryland, I guess. Mexico City, very cool. That's another city I like to visit. Python versus web development. Web development, you can do Python and web development, by the way. Python is very broad, gives you all kinds of different opportunities. I think, though, web development is very broad, lots of opportunities. Depends what you want to do. Eric asks, do you speak French? Sûrement, je parle français. C'est pas souvent que je parle français, mais je parle français. So I just said, yes, I speak French. Not often I speak French, but I do speak French. David says, I'm interested in your Python course. I buy it direct from StudioWeb, or is it there a different link? Just buy it from StudioWeb. You go to school.studioweb.com/store, and you get to it there. There's a link underneath. Oh, you're lucky. Wait, don't buy it now because a video that's coming out tomorrow morning is going to be 50% off the Python course. 50. First time ever I do such a big discount. So wait until tomorrow. The video will land tomorrow on YouTube. So don't bite now. Is it good to invest in PHP now? Oh, let me just click that again. Yeah, I just did a video a couple of videos ago, and Indeed.com indicated that PHP jobs have shot up 834% in 2020. So there's a big spike in demand for PHP. So yeah, love your videos. Started taking your web dev course. Well, thanks a lot. I appreciate you taking my course, and I hope it's going well. My teaching advice, or learning advice rather, do 20 minutes a day, at least 20 minutes a day, even if you're not feeling it, and also give yourself some days off. So maybe do 4 or 5 days a week, a couple of days off, maybe Monday, Tuesday, take Wednesday off, Thursday, Friday, take Saturday, Sunday off, you know. You want to give yourself some time to let your brain process all that new information. Hello from New York. Yeah, New York and Montreal, you're just, you know, for people who are watching around the world, how many? Well, 58. New York is just south of Montreal, and they're very similar cities. New York's, of course, much bigger, but very similar cities in character and personality, I would say. Do you have a schedule for your videos and streams? Not particularly. I will soon. I usually do them around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, New York time. This is very unusual. I don't think I've ever done a video this late at night. I just felt like doing one. I was just curious to see how many people would get on. 56, right? During the day when I do a video, we'll get up to 200 to 300 people. Sometimes, I think the record a few days ago, I don't know if it was a record, but it was like 360 people at once, simultaneously watching. Why learn PHP? Good question. He's curious. Jobs is jobs. PHP is kind of like the go-to language for small businesses. Just go to Indeed.com. Like I said, I just mentioned how Indeed says there's a huge increase in jobs. A lot of WordPress development, a lot of small business development. It's been around for so long, and it was so approachable. Was it something like 38% of websites in the world run PHP in some capacity? It's by far the most popular server-side programming language. And I'm not saying it's technically the best. I think they all have their pros and cons, but it's just so widely used. If you try it, you see. The syntax is not the prettiest, there's no question. But once you start using it and you see how mature and stable it is, I think you're going to see why it's very popular. Why is this video wider than 16:9? I don't know. I just shoot it at 16:9 and my software is sending it out. How is the clarity of the video? Is the video clear for you guys? I hope so. I think I'm streaming in 4K. Yeah. Hey, Stef, I was wondering if you think future versions of GPT would take comp sci jobs such as GPT 5+. Oh, I don't know. I don't think so. I think before comp sci jobs go away, so many other jobs will go way before it. So I wouldn't be too concerned. It's day in India. Yeah, I figured that much. On the West Coast, it's still 7 p.m. Nice and early. Where on the West Coast are you, Alessandro? I assume California. Should I consider learning an assembly language in the future? I would look at the job opportunities for that. And if you see that there's job opportunities that look approachable, then I would look at, go to some forums where people are writing assembly or are talking and see what they have to say about the type of coding that it is. And if it looks good, then dabble a little bit in assembly, see if you like that kind of coding. Because assembly coding, very different from, say, WebStack, you know? All right, thank you, Compy. I appreciate the feedback. Yeah, video looks good. Cool. Yeah, see, one of the things I teach, right, in coding is fundamentals. Learn the fundamentals. This is not unique to coding. It's in all disciplines. Even the world's best boxers and basketball players, the world's best anything, really. They just keep drilling the fundamentals. So I've been working on, partly for work and partly as a hobby, cameras, lighting, trying to get really good video. If you look back videos from 3 years ago, you can see they're very consistent, Sometimes I look like a zombie. Sometimes I look like I'm 500 years old. And sometimes I look like I'm 10 years old. Sometimes I have a blue face. You get the idea. So I'm all over the place. And the reason my videos were inconsistent is because I didn't quite understand the fundamentals of videography. So I've been working on that. And the key to all of it really is lighting. So I've been working on all this. So I'm able to light me, in this case, just about any situation. What do we got here? Do hiring manager really look at the code of applicants' portfolio project? They don't, typically not, they may do that at a third level. What they're going to do is they're going to judge you based on what the projects are, how you present yourself. They'll ask you some questions and see how you answer the questions. If you know something about the company you're interviewing for, you should research in advance what they're doing, what technology stacks they're doing. Find out some stuff like that. That's going to impress them that you've done a little homework on them. So you can ask them questions. Like, for example, if you find that they're using Node.js and you can, maybe go in there and say, hey, have you updated to the latest version of Node, or are you using Express on top of it, et cetera, et cetera. So if you start asking them questions, that shows that you're active, you're curious, which makes you somebody much more likely they're going to hire. Hologram Nunchuck. I like your name, by the way. Would smaller companies using PHP be less inclined to give whiteboarding test? Yes, much so. They don't have time for that. They're just going to talk to you, interview you, and if you sell them on what you can do, then they'll try you out on a stage for a little while, and then you take it from there. Have you changed your development course in the past year or so? I change it when I need to. Because I do the fundamentals, they don't change very often, right? Last time I had to change a course, I had to change something in the SQL course, the database course, because I was teaching an older library. It's still widely used, but so I just moved to a new library. Now, that was basically cosmetic, because the difference between the older library and the newer library was just, it's just under the hood. Like, the code is almost identical and the concepts are almost identical. One thing you got to understand is that once you understand the concept, so let's say you understand inheritance in object-oriented programming, and I teach that in my Python course. Then you understand pretty much how inheritance works in all the languages, whether it be Java, C#, JavaScript, PHP. There are some nuances and some differences here and there, but for you to understand those differences will take you literally, okay, that's it. So once you understand OOP, you understand OOP inheritance. Once you understand OOP inheritance, you understand it. So I update them when they need to be updated, but I'm not one to teach the latest MERN stack or the latest ES6 extensions. Because once you do the fundamentals, once you understand them, you'll be able to learn those things on your own without a course. It'll be like this. So I try to teach. It's that old. Like I talked to. Like, if I was going to teach you how to become a professional musician, the equivalent of a tutorial would be, I'm going to teach you how to play these 10 songs on the guitar: Stairway to Heaven, Black Sabbath, Paranoid. You get to Queen songs, whatever. Instead of teaching you 10 songs, what I do is I teach you how to play music, how to teach you chords and progressions and scales and all of this tempo and timing, how to read and write music, and then all of a sudden you can learn any song on your own ever written very easily. So it's a different approach. Now, tutorials can come in handy once, after you have your basics. Let's say you do your basics, you go out there and you have a job and they want you to do it in Express. Well, maybe you do a half an hour tutorial on Express, or maybe buy a cheap tutorial on Express, so you just get up to speed within an hour, or you just go to the help docs and you learn Express on your own like that. You'll be able to do it. Video looks good. Video's clear. Okay, what else do we have? I'm taking your course, Hasun Ahalek. I'm taking your course. It's awesome. Best course to everybody. Tell everybody about it. Keep going until your name related to success like Steve Jobs. Thank you. I'm glad. Thanks for letting me know and telling people, and I'm glad that my course is useful. One of the things I like best about doing this, I've been teaching for a long time now, is I hear back from old students. Some have gone on to start businesses. Some have gone on to, a lot of them have gone on to have jobs, et cetera, et cetera. So it's good hearing back. So I always like hearing back from people. What else do I have? In general, for me, Jacob, boot camps, take them with a grain of salt, especially if you have to go 5, 10,000, 20,000 to pay for a boot camp. I think you could, this I'm biased. I think do my StudioWeb courses first and then decide whether or not you need a boot camp, which you probably 99% you won't need it. And it's so much less expensive. That being, boot camps, it depends on the boot camp. Depends on, at the end of the day, it comes down to the quality of the teacher. At the end of the day, it comes down to the quality of the teacher. Let's see what Jivan has to say. Speaking of assembly language, is it essential for foundations of CS? No, it's not. Worth to learn. We are learning it in college. Assembly is a very different beast than other modern programming languages. Listen, you're learning it. You may find a use for it later on. If you like writing assembly code, it's a totally different type of programming than writing web apps or mobile apps. It's totally different. Listen, you're being taught, do it in school. The more you learn, the more you earn, the more you're exposed to different concepts and different ideas, the better off you are. So nothing is really a waste of time if it challenges you and raises your game. Even if you don't end up using it. You got to think of it like push-ups. Professional fighters will do push-ups and sit-ups, and they'll skip rope, and they'll run, and they'll do track. They'll do all these things that have nothing to do with fighting, but it conditions their body to be prepared for the fight. So sometimes there are things you can learn that may not be used directly in your work day-to-day, but they prepare you for day-to-day. I hope that makes sense. Now what do we got here? Yeah. Hey, Stefan, is it weird to take about a year to get through front-end technologies? About to learn React soon, but I always see stories of people learning everything in 6 months. Thanks. Depends on how busy you are, right? And at the end of the day, if it takes you a year to get there, or it takes you a year and a half to get there, or 6 months to get there, who cares? Once you're there, right? Once you know it, you know it. That's it. So don't be so concerned about whether it takes you a year or 6 months. It doesn't matter. Nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to go, oh, how long did it take you to get there? Oh, it took you a year. Oh, it took you 6 months. Nobody's going to care. They're going to just care about whether or not you can do it. Any advice to learn CSS coming from backend development? Yeah, just, you got to do HTML5, of course, first. And then you do your CSS. And CSS is one of the least impressive coding languages out there, in my opinion. But you got to learn it. Thankfully, it's much more mature than it used to be. But you have to learn the basics, the selector types and the cascade and how the cascade works. Those are the big two, the selector types and cascade. If you can get those two concepts, the cascades can be very complex. It's very powerful and very precise, maybe a little bit too much. But if you learn the selector types and the cascade, it's 90% of it right there. Then you throw in a little CSS grid and a Flexbox, which is something built into CSS. And maybe you learn a little Bootstrap, and that's about it. So yeah, it's going to be a little bit of, for some people, it's a bit of a head bender. But that's because CSS, I just don't, anyway, I won't get into it now. In Australia, at the moment, Perth, currently at work, C++ dev, thinking about moving to the Great North. Any chance to get a job from here and move later? Just curious. The Great North, are you referring to Canada? If that's so, yes, very much so. Because Australia, Canada, I think it's part of the Commonwealth, there's special privileges that we have that way. So for example, my brother moved to Australia, and it was fairly easy for him because, again, former British colonies were able to move around quite easily. So you should be able to get a job up here in Canada if that's what you meant by the Great North. Rob says, how would you compare the backend development between PHP and Java? PHP is much faster, like much faster. You write much less code to get the same thing done with PHP. Although with later, newer frameworks like Spring Boot, which I haven't used, apparently is much quicker. But when you're using PHP with Laravel versus Java Spring or Java, one of the older frameworks, Java, or just JSPs and servlets, Java is just very verbose. You write a lot of code, whereas PHP is much more concise. What else is there? PHP is just really, really good at web development because that's all it does. That's all it does. Whereas Java is more general purpose, so there's a bit more boilerplate code, which is the last thing I want to point out is it's a lot easier to get up and running with PHP just because you don't have all these dependencies and so forth. It's much less complex in that regard. So, yeah. But again, I haven't looked at the latest Java frameworks like Spring Boot. Apparently, it speeds up things quite a bit. But that's why I got most of my experience as a programmer writing Java web back in the day, and I won't use it today because it's just too slow to develop in. I can get out the same app, web app, much more quickly with PHP or Python, as an example, or maybe JavaScript Node, than I can with Java. It's just the way it is. But once Java is running, it runs really fast and is very solid. That's a good thing. Mohammed Bilal, what's the best way to get better at HTML and CSS? Write HTML and CSS. Just go out there and start building things. Start building things and learn as you go. Don't get caught up in the trap of you thinking you have to do more and more tutorials. That's like, I equate that to pad hitters in MMA gyms or boxing gyms. There's two types of people who go to a boxing or MMA gym. The pad hitters and the people who want to fight and people who fight. So the pad hitters are always doing drills and pad work and skipping rope and hitting heavy bags, but they don't get into the ring. And then you get another group of people who are always sparring, they're always in the ring. Well, the pad hitters never become good fighters. In fact, when they eventually decide to try getting into the ring, they get beaten really bad. Whereas if you get in the ring right away, you get good much more quickly. I used to say to people, one sparring session, 3 rounds, is probably worth months of training outside of the ring in terms of skill and development. Same thing with learning HTML and CSS. One website built is worth 10 tutorials. So just build websites. If you know your basics, if you're comfortable with that. How we doing? 167 people already. All right. Wow, people are coming in. Are automation projects good for getting Python or Django job clients? I don't know. You have to go look at the job listings. How do you set prices for client web development project? Hourly, milestone, pay. Thanks for great content, by the way. Depends on the client. As a shameless plug, my freelance course teaches all that. Let me give you a quick summary. Clients, when they first get to know you, they're going to want a fixed price on the project. There's no question. They're going to ask you how much you charge per hour, and they may haggle with you on that. But at the end of the day, they're going to say, "How much? I want to be able to do this project for X amount of dollars." That's it. Until they get to know you. Once they get to know you, and once they trust you, and they're doing updates and so forth, then the per hour thing will start kicking in. But initially, I can guarantee you almost, they're going to ask you your per hour rate, but they're going to want a fixed budget, which kind of makes sense. Emiel Afurong, I probably pronounced that wrong, but my apologies. Where do you see Flutter going? Will it replace Android's native language? I don't know if Flutter will, could. I think Flutter has got a strong start. We'll see if it really takes off. I think PWA, generally speaking, will replace native development, or not completely, but it will replace it quite a bit. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I am 169 years old, but on my dating app, it says I'm 36. Jacob, what programming language would you recommend to learn first? It doesn't really matter. It's like Python's a good choice. PHP is a good choice. But if you do PHP or JavaScript, you're going to have to learn HTML and a little bit of CSS first. Those are good languages because there's less bookkeeping, less to concepts to have to comprehend to be able to get up and running. If I had to pick the best one overall, it'd probably be Python, because JavaScript's got some weirdness about it, that inconsistencies, where Python's a bit more consistent. Consistent languages are easy to learn. Should I learn Ruby? Okay, how do I ban this guy? Just kidding. If you want, just look, it's all job dependent, look around what the jobs are, Let me make a broad statement. Java, C#, JavaScript, Python, Ruby, PHP, TypeScript, I don't know, name it. There's a whole bunch of other languages. They're all good. They're all pretty good. They all have their niches. C++, of course, C#. They all have their niches, and they're all good. You gotta, largely the choice depends on where the jobs are and what type of programming you want to do. Okay. Tommy Gunn, is coding grind worth it? I'm starting to get tired of coding. I want to get into software architecture. How do you get into that? How to be successful and happy at it? Well, yeah, see, that's a choice you're going to have to make. Some people still, I know, have been coding for years. They still love it. And some people get tired of it and they want to go into architecture. I think, assuming, Tommy, that you're working somewhere, and I assume you have some experience, at least I would imagine 2-3 years, I think what you could do is start working on maybe architecture on the side on your own, understanding what that's all about, and then maybe apply to smaller companies who'll be willing to train you up in architecture if they're not willing to allow you to start doing that at your current company. I bought your course last year. Should I buy it again? Nope. You're good. You're good. If you got your fundamentals, you're fine. I'm talking if you did the web stack. You may want to get the Python course. Tomorrow I'm releasing a 50% coupon, first time ever. So that will help deepening your understanding, because the more programming languages you learn, the better you're going to understand all programming, because you're going to see things like variables and functions, arrays and collection types and objects expressed in PHP and JavaScript, Python, etc. But if you're talking about the web stack, no, you should be good. What should I learn after learning the fundamentals to become a full stack developer? Or if you're comfortable, God's will, with the fundamentals, you should be going out there and building stuff now for people. In the first 2 to 3 years of development, as you're writing code for real and you're making money or you're doing stage work, a big part of that is learning as you go. Big part of learning as you go. Alan Johnson, why do people hate inheritance recently? I don't know why other people hate it. I've never been a big fan of inheritance going back, 20 years. And there's a couple of reasons I've talked about in videos, but what it comes down to is that one of the main goals of object-oriented programming and programming in general is to have code that is not brittle, meaning code that's very robust, code that is not dependent on other code to function. And they call that, another way of looking at it, another term that they use in the nerd world rather is loose coupling. It's not tight. They're independent of each other. But when you create an inheritance hierarchy, your code is becoming dependent, right? Because your subclass is dependent on the parent class, and that creates a potential for some brittle code, for code breaking. Inheritance should only be used in the case where you have some fundamental core infrastructure objects and classes that are not mutable. They will never change. That is pretty much it, and that is rarely done. What you should do is design by interfaces instead. It's much less brittle. It serves the main function of inheritance, well, the key functions of inheritance. The whole idea, one of the concepts rather, inheritance is that they want to reuse code. So you don't have to write the same code again that you already wrote in some base class. You shouldn't do that. You should, instead of inheritance, use something called composition instead. So what you would do is you would not inherit from a base class. You would just implement that. You would just use that base class, just bring it into some subclass, and then use a method in your parent class. So you would not inherit from it and expand upon it. You would just use it in some other class. So you want to look at composition, which is a very important design pattern I should talk about more often. And you want to use interfaces rather than inheritance. You're going to have a more robust code base. Trust me, I've seen inheritance break code very often. You have to be extremely disciplined and have an extremely disciplined team to implement inheritance properly. I hope that makes sense. Is SQL worth it to learn for 2021? Yes, SQL is very popular. Already 185 people Sunday night. What time is it? 10:20. Very cool. You know, when I stream during the day around 2, I start getting bandwidth issues within 20 minutes. And I was wondering, is that my connection? Because I have a super high-speed connection. I pay a lot. And I figured it must be COVID. It must be all the schools and all the people working from home, clogging up the interwebs. Right, here we are at 10 o'clock at night and no bandwidth issues. I'm assuming you guys are getting a nice clear feed in terms of the audio and the video. Yeah. So let's scroll down, see what else we got here. Hold on, I gotta take a sip of coffee. I'm one of these guys, I can drink coffee at 2 in the morning and it doesn't affect me. Okay, let's see what we got here. Compy 386. I have 5 years experience in C#, C++, PY for desktop apps. I have made a few simple client-server apps in Node Express. If I wanted to switch to web dev for a career, should I learn more first or just apply? I think you're ready to go, man. What I would do is I would just put up a website, but your website selling Compy, compy386.com. And you want to make sure Compy's website looks beautiful because people are going to judge you, even for coding work. I know it sounds silly, but trust me, they will. They're going to judge you by how nice your website looks. It doesn't have to be a design fantastic. Use a template, whatever. Make it clean, simple, leveraging the newest stuff, and show your experience there. Have very, concise text, get to the point, and then maybe do 1 or 2 free jobs, small little jobs in web dev on the side, whether paid or not. And then you put that on your resume site. That's the key. And then with giving your experience and you show that, I guarantee you'll get work pretty easily. All right, what do we got here? Jester 2B04, excuse me. Hey, Stefan, just finished your JavaScript course. Congratulations. Thanks so much for your patience and guidance. I will take on your PHP lesson next. Cool, congratulations. I take it you enjoyed the JavaScript course. What you're going to see, I use the languages that I teach, by the way, guys, as a vehicle to teach the concepts and the basic techniques. So I'm teaching you the languages, of course, but I'm teaching you a lot more than that. So in the JavaScript, you learn a whole bunch of different things that are applicable to all kinds of other languages. Can someone with no tech background break into development without a degree? 100%, not a problem. That's one of the beautiful things about web development. Web development especially is that as long as you can show skill, you'll be fine. Just go to Google and search for StudioWeb Montreal, because depending on where you are in the world, you may pop up another site. And then you see StudioWeb Montreal, that's StudioWeb. And just click on the reviews, like 125, 130 reviews, and read people's reviews. I decided to stop doing local reviews and push them onto on Google and elsewhere, because that's kind of like, Google is kind of like the gatekeeper. To me, it seems more legitimate. So you can go read what my previous students have said about the courses and what jobs they got and stuff. And yeah, I think you have your answers there. Stealthy Pirate, when should you start to learn architecture? So glad I caught you while streaming. Your help is appreciated. I would do a couple years, a year maybe, or maybe 5 projects, 5 decent-sized projects, maybe 10, and then if you really want to get into it then. But there's nothing stopping you from starting right away. To be a good software architect, there's a talent aspect as well. So figure that out. You figure that out by trying it out. So, if you're coding now, I assume that you're coding now, I would just start taking little side projects, learning about architecture, start reading about it, start learning about it, and take it from there. All right, how are we doing? 190 people, keeps going up. Unbelievable. All right, 1,700. Yeah, it's on the cheaper end for boot camps. But if you haven't done my StudioWeb full stack course, it's $39. I think you're going to learn a lot there. I'm going to shamelessly self-promote. I have my mentoring program, which is half that, and less than half that. And you should check it out. There's a link below. And we're going to be expanding upon that as well. I think you'll get a lot more out of that. But I'm a little biased. Will you make a Django Java course in the future? I might. I got other things I got racked up. People have been asking me to do a Java course for years now. I should, considering I wrote so much Java, but I just never got around to it. All right, Banks. B4Inks. Been a PHP dev for nearly 10 years now. Being a fellow Montrealer, you were one of my inspirations. Cheers. Thanks for letting me know. Wow, cool, man. Congratulations. Wow. Man. Hafiz Faraz Mukhtar. I think I pronounced that correctly. Let me know. Hi, sir. I am a top-rated CSS ninja on Upwork and Fiverr. I am not sure what to do next. Please guide. It sounds to me like you know your front end well. If you want to expand your job opportunities and you want to increase how much you make, get into the back end. Work the back end. Whichever language, whichever framework. Do a little market research, see where the jobs are, see who's paying for what, and you may find PHP is very popular, JavaScript on the back end may be popular, maybe some Python. Yeah. Is 4 gig RAM, 1 terabyte ROM, i3, well, for sure. You can use Master of Deception. That's a pretty original name. I like how you did that. Yeah, you can use a 5-year-old laptop that you have to crank, and it'll be fine for most development. That's what's one of the beautiful things about development. Here's an answer from Uday, so I'll put it up. Thanks for contributing to the stream. Cheers, Alex, or if you were talking to me. Let's see what we got here. Question regarding being a junior freelance remote developer. Advice I hear is to learn languages that are popular locally, but what should you learn if you intend to work purely remotely online? Well, you got to pick your strategy. You got to figure out what your online strategy is going to be. Are you going to go to Upwork? Or are you going to go to, I don't know, freelance.com? Who knows? And then once you figure out what your strategy is in terms of online, then you can start looking at the market in that, with respect to that strategy. There we go. And then you can go there. So if you say, I'm going to go work online with Upwork, so check out the Upwork community. What's that all about? As an example. I don't know what you want to do, but whether you're looking at geography in terms of determining demand, you can look at physical geography, country A, B, or C, or you can look at community A, B, or C online, right? I hope that makes sense. Yeah. See, a lot of the questions I get about this has a lot to do with business intelligence, career intelligence, psychology even. That's why it's all going into my mentoring program, because I realize that's what a lot of people need. Chins. I love your style of talk, Stef. Thanks. I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, a story. I tell everybody, learn the fundamentals. Learn the fundamentals. That's key. Because that's what helped me in my development and coding career. I remember way back, we're going to go way back in time, 200 years ago, when I was learning how to code. And I remember when I would hit roadblocks, whether I was learning a new language or a new library or something. And what I realized after a little while, that when I would hit a roadblock, 99% of the time, the roadblock had to do with some gap in my knowledge of some fundamental concepts or techniques. Really, that's what it was. Over and over again. So then when I did, I said, okay, it's just like martial arts. It's just like music. It's just like business. So I went back and I started just working on my fundamentals. And Bob's your uncle, once I really got a grasp of that, I stopped hitting these roadblocks so often. Because that was the main problem. So that's why I emphasize all that. I always emphasize learn the basics, learn the fundamentals, because that's the key to mastery, And like I was talking about earlier in the stream, with this video, it's like I'm finally starting to consistently be able to put out video that looks good no matter what the lighting environment is. And why? Is because I got a better camera? No, it's because I started understanding the fundamentals of videography, light, and composition, and lenses. All that, it's just all fundamentals. And the fact of the matter is, I do use a very expensive camera here, but I can tell you that I could get a very, very good picture with a cheap $200 camera, now that I understand the fundamentals of videography. And that's why I say you can write fantastic software in almost any language that's out there. For example, I can give you an example. LinkedIn is Java. Facebook is PHP. WordPress is PHP. Instagram is that's Python, Django. Twitter was originally Ruby, et cetera, and I'm sure all the Microsoft sites, which are hugely successful, all C#.net, et cetera. You can find examples of unbelievable successes in any of the modern languages. So that's why I say don't think that there's some technical advantage that some particular stack or language has universally. In certain areas, yes, but not universally. It's kind of, think of it like MMA. You got MMA fighters who are better at striking, or some are better at takedowns, some are better at submissions, some are better at ground and pound. But they're all well-rounded, although they specialize one thing or the other. But as in the early days of mixed martial arts, you would have one stylist against another guy, right? Boxer versus taekwondo guy, or jiu-jitsu guy versus wrestler, etc. But these mono-style fighters are no longer effective in the ring. They have to become more broad and broad in terms of what their skill sets are. They focus on one thing or another, of course. Everybody specializes, but They're more broad. So you have to think of it that way with regards to software development and coding. You have to become a little bit more open-minded about it all. Hey, Steph, which web dev niche makes more money? It's all driven by demand, right? And it could change. It could be based on where you happen to live, you know. If you, let's say if you freelance, that's where you will ultimately make the most money as a web developer. But you have to build up that business, and you have to learn how to build it up and structure it so you can be making the $200 to $300 the hour versus working for somebody where you're making 40. There's strategies and how to do that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Again, I teach all that in my course, so I won't cover it all here. But again, it's all local. You may be in Germany where C#.net is where the money is, or you may be in some other part of the world where it's PHP Laravel. Tommy, how are we doing for time? 46 minutes, wow. See, since it's almost 200 of you, I'm reluctant to get off. All right, we'll do a few more questions, then I'm going to go because it's 10:30, and I'm going to go relax a bit, although I'm having fun. What was the last book you read that changed your mind for some reason? That's a good question. I think it was a book on cognitive psychology. I think a book, I don't know if it changed my mind. It just gave me more insight into stuff. A book by Robert Cialdini is called Persuasion, Persuasion. He's a very famous, one of the most important psychologists in the world. And I first read his first seminal book called Influence back in, I think it was 89 or something. So he put out a book a few years ago called Persuasion, which is a very interesting book. Yeah, it expanded my thinking about stuff. All right, Maurice. What does Maurice have to say? I was going to learn mobile app dev, but I just lost my job, so I guess I will learn web dev since there are more jobs. Yeah, follow the money. I'm a big believer that the web is the best stack to learn if you want to have the most opportunity. Simply because with web you can do websites, you can do full web apps, you can go into WordPress development, Shopify. You could go into PWA development. You can do responsive stuff. There's all kinds of different areas. How to get started with open source projects? Well, find an open source projects that are open to new contributors and start contributing to them. R. Wolf, CSS made me rethink going to front-end dev. Yeah, I can understand that. I can't believe FE dev stacks then needed to use tables to create complex layouts. Now we have Flexbox, Grid, etc. Oh, you have no idea how bad it was with tables. We used to use tables, HTML tables, and we used to use some GIFs, transparent GIFs to move things around because we didn't have CSS back in the day. So if you wanted to move text over, like indent text or something, you'd have to insert little transparent GIF images and set their sizes so it would push the text over. It was a real kludge. Let me tell you, today, web design, front-end design, and back-end is far more advanced and complex in some regards, but it's far easier to implement because the technology is so much more mature than it used to be. Yeah. Why is Canada called the Great White North? Because right north of us is the North Pole. So it gets very cold up here in Canada. That's why. Let's see what this guy has to say. Hey, I've just got into Java EE Enterprise. Wow. I'm learning Spring MVC, Hibernate, created REST API, REST clients, etc. Do you think there's a good opportunities in the space of Java? 100%. Tons of opportunity there, and for many years to come. So you'll be fine. But you'll be working for very large corporations. Jacob, would you recommend being a mobile dev or web dev? Which one is more beneficial as years go on? I think that web devs will do, web developers, web devs will do a lot of mobile dev in the future. There already are. So if you do native mobile, there's always going to be work there for sure. But I think that's going to become more nicheified. I think it could be more opportunity as a web dev. But there's still plenty of opportunity in native mobile. That's what my brother does full time. He's a native. He does mostly iOS. Does some Android, but does mostly iOS with Swift. So if you do decide to go native mobile, plenty of work. But web dev, a lot more opportunity because it's just much bigger market. All right, so we'll go on for another 5-10 minutes, then I'm going to head out. Chin Chins, what do you prefer, Mac or Windows? Overall, I have to say I prefer Mac now. It's just more stable, but I have everything. I have Mac OS, I have Windows 10, I have Android, I have iOS. It depends what you're doing. I still keep, I got a Surface tablet, Surface Pro, good computer, real good computer. I keep it because there's a couple apps that I like to use once in a while that are only on Windows. I could install a Parallels on my Mac, but I just rather use it native. What's easier for a beginner? I would do WebStack, do HTML, CSS, JavaScript, or maybe do Python, one or the other. If you decide to do Python, wait, tomorrow, video's coming out, it's going to be a 50% coupon. I've never put out a 50% coupon as far as I can remember, ever. I put out coupons maybe twice a year, 3 times a year, usually like 30% off, 20% off. Derp T Derp CGI main. Thumbs up for the 149-year-old developer. Great Q&A. Thank you. I'm actually 169, but who's counting? What's the best breakfast? Ooh. Depends how I feel. I like bagels. I like Montreal bagels are kind of unique, so I like getting Montreal bagels with a runny egg and some bacon. Depends. Maple syrup. I miss going to breakfast. Montreal is a big breakfast city. People love going out to breakfast in Montreal. There's breakfast restaurants all over the place, and they get very fancy. One of my friends owns one of the best breakfast places in the world, without a doubt. He flies all over the world, Europe and North America, and he would just try out different restaurants, breakfast restaurants, and pull out the best items, and he brought it here. Unfortunately, COVID, nothing's open. Rob Burns again. Got here a little late, just want to say hi and smash the like button, folks. Hey, appreciate it, Rob. Thank you. Yeah, how many? 185 people, only 75 likes. Very disappointed. Is Ruby good for web development? A lot of big projects have been done in Ruby. Yes, there is. Hey, Stef, any ideas for your next vacation? Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm supposed to go down to Texas because I have some business interests down there. I couldn't go. I might be going down to Florida because I have family there, and I might get a place there. I'm not sure. And I like going to California because I have friends and family there as well. At some point, I'd like to head back to Europe. I want to spend maybe a good month in London. I spent a week or so there. That was great, London, England. Maybe go back to Southeast Asia. There's a bunch of places I want to go to or go back to. I'm not sure. Hawaii is a place I got to go. I hear Hawaii is good. I've been to Barbados. That was a great place too. Yeah. Turan, we'll see what Turan has to say. Hey, Steph, what's tips, your tips for people who are new in uni. I'm fine with learning stuff myself, and I'm learning C++, and monogam ATM. I'm not familiar with monogam ATM, so I would just, if you're learning stuff in school and you're still hungry for some coding, I would maybe try pick up some web stuff, maybe a little Python, simply because it might lead you to some opportunities to develop an app, or maybe get a job on the side, do a little side gigs, make some extra money. Another thing you can do is work on developing good writing, communication skills. People underestimate that. I always tell people, before you learn a new framework or language, assuming you got at least a framework and 1 or 2 languages under your belt, you advance your career more quickly if you learn how to communicate better. Is test automation a good career choice? Depends on your location, but that's more of a niche. And so that would suggest you would be working for medium to larger corporations only, which is fine. But if you're a developer, you have more opportunities that are open to you. I would imagine if you're full stack, you're going to make more money overall. But I would have to. But if you like test automation, it's great. Andrew, why learn to code when you can use page builder like Elementor inside WordPress, for instance? Thanks. Because those tools have limits. They have limits. And eventually you're going to have to go down into code. Those tools are great if you work within their confines, right? As soon as you have to go outside of that, then you're like, it's a disaster. And to give you context, Wix, which is one of the biggest, they know that themselves, and they have a JavaScript API for coders to be able to go in there and extend beyond what their tool can provide. So they're tools, and they can be used in certain circumstances. All right, I'm going to answer 2 more questions, and I'm going to head out. Hey, Stefan, I'm 19 and in my 3rd year of software engineering in university. That's cool. It's quite young. Are you European? I also work remote for a startup doing mainly React. Do you have any advice for someone like me? Love the live streams, by the way. Well, thanks for watching the live streams. Yeah, like I would start building your reputation. Your reputation is one of the most valuable assets that you're going to build. And so you do that, set up a website, start documenting the work that you do, the projects that you do, and maybe start trying to do a few side gigs here and there, to expand your experience with different technologies, especially since you're very young. So that's cool. That's what I would do. This is going to maximize your ability to get a job and to make more money, and it will open up much more opportunity for yourself. So that's my advice there. There we go. Difer 9000. Hi from Mexico. Hola amigo. CSS Grid versus Bootstrap. Which one is better? Overall, Grid is where you want to go because it's native, but Bootstrap is still widely used. So just learn the Bootstrap Grid. If I already know CSS Grid, do I really need to learn Bootstrap? Love your live streams. No, you don't need to learn it. Just get a job now or start getting work. If you need to, if you find yourself come across a project where they're implemented Bootstrap, then you just learn it. It will take you 20 minutes, half an hour. Bootstrap was once essential. It was essential tech. Now it's moved into what I call the Need2Nerd category. The Need2Nerd category. How to start a data science career. Want to know your opinion about that. I'm going to do a video this week on that, so we'll get into that there. What else? All right, what are we doing? Okay, I'm going to pick one or... there we go. Try to decouple things. Composition is easier to test. There you go. Exactly. Yeah. Do you think object-oriented programming is overrated? No, I think it's like any other technology. If you don't use it properly, like you start using inheritance, then you can get yourself into trouble. But overrated, hardly. No. Everything's so much software. The vast majority of software is written in OO, regardless of the language. What's the difference between PostgreSQL and MySQL? I'm familiar with Postgre and Node, but not so much with PHP, MySQL. Well, you can use PHP with Postgre. They're just competing database technologies. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to find another comparison, like Audi versus Porsche. People say that Postgre is more performant, etc. I think they're both good. They're both fine. I tend to just use MySQL out of habit. It works fine. I have tables with millions and millions of records, and it's not a problem. All right, guy. What do we got here? One last question. Here we go. Stefan, I've been applying forever and I cannot get a job. All right, so what can we do here? You have made videos about my emails and I have followed your advice, but I still don't have a job. Help. Yeah, you're going to have to, I don't know what you're doing, right? You got to, I don't know how many times you applied. I don't know what your site looks like. I don't know if you presented well. I don't know what your skill sets are. Don't give up, though. Don't give up. If next time you apply and if they do reject you or they never take your resume, call them up, say, hey, what's going on? And even if you have to call 10 people, that's okay. Find out. Get some feedback. And some people will give you feedback, will tell you what is missing, what has to be done. It's just a puzzle. It's just a game you got to solve. Just like a video game. You just got to keep looking at it. So it's hard for me to judge because maybe the way you present your website is no good, or maybe your resume needs to be worked on, or maybe when you sit in the interview, you're not interviewing right. It's hard. Again, like I don't know what's going on, but don't give up. Trust me, there's lots of jobs. You'll figure it out if you just keep working on refining it, and don't feel bad about yourself because it's okay. It's okay because as you try and you make attempts, you fail, you learn a little bit, and once you finally get there, which you will if you just keep working at it, all the past experiences you're gonna realize that they were just helping you to learn how to get where you're going to go. Remember, if you watch, I like to use the boxing analogy. I used to box. The best fighters in the world champions, the most dominant guys in the world, when they connect with 50% of their punches, when half their punches hit, only half, that is considered a blowout. That is considered a destruction of the opponent. So the best of the best in the world, when they fail half the time, it's considered amazing output, right? So don't give up. I can't give you, I don't know what's going on, so it's hard for me to give you feedback, but I hope that helps. All right, guys, it's an hour. I can talk for a long time. It gets me in trouble sometimes. All right, I'll let you guys go. It's getting late. It's almost 11. I hope you enjoyed this live stream. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. And I'll probably do another live stream in a couple of days. All right, we'll talk soon. And you know what? I'll give you the ASMR here.